It's January 1966 at the Delmonico Hotel. A room full of high society psychiatrists sits down for a serious, formal dinner. Then, a young woman in a black leotard crashes the event, dancing through the tables and dismantling the evening's professional dignity. Focus. He manufactured this exact spectacle, and he is filming the resulting discomfort with clinical detachment. While observers saw a bohemian utopia of artistic liberation, they were really witnessing a carefully calculated demonstration of power. The FactorY was a stage managed by a man who gave nothing of himself away while recording everything around him. Before the silver walls, Warhol spent the 1950s as a highly successful commercial illustrator. He mastered the mechanics of manufacturing desire, learning how to produce images that the public was desperate to consume and then look at again. He applied these advertising skills directly to his early pop art by taking mundane grocery items, like cans of soup, and placing them in a high art context. He proved that appearance and placement were the real currencies of the art world. Warhol shifted the input of his business model from consumer products to human subjects. He realized that people could be packaged, commodified, and sold with the same commercial efficiency as any other mass-market good. The FactorY operated as a literal corporate machine. It was designed to process psychologically vulnerable young women, extracting their social and financial resources to fuel a multi-million-dollar media empire. The trap was located at 231 East 47th Street. Warhol weaponized the industrial space with silver foil and Krylon spray paint, creating a room that vibrated with reflected light. Visitors reported feeling as if they were already inside an artwork, performing for an audience that wasn't there. The biological engine of the room was Obetrol, an amphetamine diet pill. Warhol distributed it freely to keep his subjects awake, productive, and dependent. He notably stayed sober himself, maintaining the control of a host who keeps the drinks flowing but drinks sparingly. He installed 16mm Bolex cameras that ran constantly, providing the ultimate flattery of making people feel deeply seen. People who feel seen rarely ask what the attention is costing them. Warhol targeted young women from wealthy, damaged old money families. These were subjects who carried the heavy psychological weight of their lineages and were desperate for liberation from the fathers who had broken them. The FactorY's design disguised a predatory extraction environment as a sanctuary. It offered glamour and documentation to those who needed validation most, ensuring they remained in the silver light until there was nothing left to take. Edie Sedgwick was the primary raw material for this process. She arrived in New York carrying a 300-year-old aristocratic legacy and a history of psychiatric institutionalization that made her structurally vulnerable to exploitation. On her 21st birthday, she received an $80,000 trust fund, worth nearly $800,000 today. She immediately bled that money dry to maintain the FactorY spectacle, paying for the hotel suites and chemical dependencies that the lifestyle demanded. This one-directional flow of value defined their relationship. Sedgwick provided unpaid labor in 15 films and used her aristocratic name to open social circles that were otherwise closed to Warhol. In exchange, she received no salary and no equity in the company. Within 14 months, the machine had strip-mined her resources. When her trust fund was empty and her family cut off her allowance, Warhol withdrew his attention, leaving her broke and chemically dependent. Not everyone who entered the Silver Room was destroyed. Survivors like Baby Jane Holzer and Ultraviolet achieved mainstream visibility and managed to walk away before the machinery could consume them. They possessed external foundations that the FactorY could not erode: independent fortunes, powerful marriages, or a European skepticism that recognized social extraction when they saw it. They did not rely on Warhol's approval for their sense of self. The Silver Room specifically threatened those who arrived without that external stability. For subjects who needed the FactorY's validation to exist, the withdrawal of Warhol's gaze was equivalent to an end of their public existence. The FactorY's first era ended in June 1968, when Valerie Solanas shot Warhol, nearly killing him. The shooting permanently ended the open-door policy. The new FactorY had gatekeepers, and the experiment in radical access was finished. This violence conveniently shielded Warhol from emerging criticism. Before the shooting, the trail of damaged people he left behind was becoming public knowledge. Afterward, his status as a victim generated a sympathy that crowded out critical analysis. He pivoted to the portrait commission business, charging wealthy clients $25,000 for a set of silkscreens. He used their beauty and money as raw material, returning a commodified image that he had made famous with his signature. This explicitly commercial phase was more morally honest than the superstar era of the 60s. A direct invoice for cultural endorsement meant that both parties finally understood exactly what was being purchased. The list of those consumed by the earlier machine is long. Freddie Herco jumped from a fifth-floor window at 28. Andrea Feldman jumped from a building at 22. Candy Darling died of lymphoma at 29, her body struggling under hormone therapies before medical protocols were established. Edie Sedgwick died of an overdose at 28. She was married and attempting to rebuild her life, but her trust fund was gone, and her health was permanently fractured by years of stimulant use. These outcomes represent the final state of the FactorY's ledger. While his subjects died at 22, 28, and 29, Warhol lived to 58, leaving behind an estate valued at over $220 million. That wealth was the result of a system that found interesting people, accelerated their self-destruction with flattery and chemicals, and discarded them once their cultural value was exhausted. Warhol built his empire on the labor, image, and money of people he treated as content. Warhol's promise of 15 minutes of fame functioned as the entry price for the FactorY. He provided a brief window of visibility, and in exchange, he took everything else his subjects had to give.